Hello, my name's Julian Edgar and I'm the author of the book you see in front of you, Setting Up a Home Car Workshop. What I want to do in today's video is talk about how you can make your own tool to bead tube. Now, there are a few of these around on the web, but most of them that I've seen can only bead brass, copper or aluminium tube. And if you want to work with mild steel or even more so stainless steel tube, they just don't have enough power to do it. So let's have a look. You'll need a welder and you'll need a hydraulic press to make the tool actually work. Here's an example of a bead that I placed on a mild steel tube when I was making some intercooler plumbing. You can see it's quite even, it's quite neat, it looks quite professional, and yet the tool to do this cost basically nothing to make. Before we get to that tool, here's one of those other common ones that you'll see as a do-it-yourself on the web. It uses a pair of vice grip pliers, an old pair that you don't mind welding to. It has a heavy-duty washer which is welded to one jaw, and it has the bottom half of a muffler clamp which is welded to the other jaw. You slide the tube over the washer, which should only be just undersized for the diameter of tube you're using, and then you crunch the pliers closed. This pushes the washer down against the tube and deforms it in this gap that's been created by the muffler clamp. You've done that one, you rotate it slightly, you unclip the pliers, you clip them in again, and it gradually forms that bead around the diameter of the tube. As I say, if you're using aluminium tube or brass or copper as part of a radiator system, I'd go for one like this. It's really easy and really cheap to make, but with mild steel or stainless steel, it just doesn't have enough power. So here's how I do it with those other material tubes. So here's the hydraulic press. We have a tool here that we've made, and we have a base plate here that we've made. And let's have a look at those two elements of the tool. So here we have a bolt, that's our starting point, and a nut. And then we have three washers. We have a heavy duty washer, which actually forms the depression of the bead, and so we knock off the corners on the grinder. We have a washer either side, slightly undersized compared with the main washer, which stiffens the main washer and stops it deforming. And talking about deformation, we also have a brace, a bracket here at the back, which stops the whole thing from bending backwards. A lot of force is involved in this sort of a tool. We also have some nuts that we've welded to the tube and some bolts. They allow us to actually attach it to the upright of the hydraulic press. Here they are again, arrowed this time. Also note the distance between there, that face there, and this face here determines how far in from the end of the tube you actually make the bead, and that'll become clearer as we look at how it works in a moment. The base plate, well, the base plate uses, as with the vice grips approach, uses the bottom half of a muffler clamp that I've just welded to the base plate, and the arrow points to a semicircle of tube which is slightly larger than the tube you'll be using, and that means that you'll always line it up square with the tools. If you don't have that piece of tube, it's easy to make the tube not go in square, and that means the bead will wander around rather than being perfectly parallel with the end of the tube. Here's the tool in place in the tube and on the hydraulic press, and notice how the tube's pushed up against that face of the tool so that we always have the bead being formed at the same depth inside the tube. So we push the tube in, we operate the hydraulic press which pushes the tool down, pushes the washer inside and deforms the tube to form that bead. We release the hydraulic press, we turn the tube a little bit, and we do it again. Now, you wouldn't want to do thousands of tubes like this, but typically on a car you're working on at home, you might have 5 or 6 beads of this sort to produce, so it doesn't matter if it takes a few minutes to form each of the beads. So here's the two tools. Here's the base plate, there's the muffler clamp, there's the slightly open guide that allows us to put the tube in at right angles, and here's the device that does all the pushing. And of course the bead is formed by that being pushed into the inner side of the tube. Here's an example of the work it can do. This is the intercooler plumbing on one of my cars. This is in mild steel exhaust tube. Nothing wrong with using exhaust tube for plumbing. There's lots of pre-built bends are available, nice mandrel bends. I brazed this together, and we can see there's one of the beads, there's a bead, there's a bead, and it was really tight to get all that in, and you can see the bead is part way around the bend, very hard to do with a traditional bead roller, and there's a nice bead on the end of that tube. They've never popped off under boost, they work really well, they look quite good. And as I say, cheap and easy to make. The book's called Setting Up a Home Car Workshop. Lots of hints and tips in the book, including making your own ramps, including making your own workshop storage facilities, and so on. Thank you.